Today we're going to build some digital models of elements and compounds to be able to differentiate between them. So I'm going to do two examples with you and then you will complete the rest on your own. So when you open this document, you can work on it here. This is the Canvas, opening the document within Canvas, or you can click this blue link and it's going to open it in Google Drive. And when you do that, it does make your screen a little bit bigger. It might be easier to work with it. Okay, so for the first one in the first box, I'm going to provide you with either a symbol or a chemical formula. And from that, you're going to be able to complete the rest of the boxes and while using your periodic table of elements. So the first one, the capital letter H. When I look at the periodic table of elements, I find that the capital letter H represents the element hydrogen. So I know that the only thing represented by this symbol is hydrogen. I will type that in a second. Sorry. There is one element, and in the third box, that element is hydrogen. And it's just the one capital letter H, so that means I'm going to move the green arrow to indicate that this is an element. If it was a compound, I would move the arrow down to compound, but this is an element, so I'm going to put the green arrow right next to the word element. And then I'm going to show this element with cubes. So I go down and I grab, it's just one H, so that means I have one atom of H or one atom of hydrogen. And then finally in the last box, I'm going to draw a model. I'm going to draw a model by going to Insert, Shape, go to Shapes, and I'm going to choose the circle. And I will draw a circle, and I can make that any color that I want. And when I double click on the circle, I'm able to type on the inside. I'm going to make sure and label it with its symbol, the H. I can increase the size and I can center my font to make it look nice. So that is a completed map for H, hydrogen. Our second example is CO2, or capital C, capital O, with a small subscript 2. So I know each capital letter represents one element. So with the capital letter C and the capital letter O, I know that I have two elements represented. And then in the third box, I'm going to type the name of the elements. I'm going to make sure and look at the periodic table of elements and see that the capital C represents the element carbon, and the capital letter O represents the element oxygen. This substance has two elements that are chemically combined together. So I know that this is definitely not an element. This is an example of a compound, two elements that are chemically combined together. My next step is to show this substance's compound with blocks. So I can see that there's one capital letter C, not followed by any subscripts. So I'm going to need one C block. And then I have a capital letter O followed by a subscript 2. So I'll need 2 of the O boxes. And you may need to increase your screen size to make the blocks a little bit easier to work with. So you can move it if you watch, when I get that little thing with the arrows pointing in every direction, that means I'm able to move the box. If I were to try and pull a corner, that's going to resize the box. I don't want to do that. So that right there, you go back. Okay, so I have a capital C, one of them, 2 capital O's. So my blocks would be 1 C block and 2 O blocks. And then finally, I'm going to use circles to draw CO2. So I'm going to use the shapes. I'm going to use a circle. So I need 1 circle to represent my carbon. I'm going to make it red. And then I have 2 oxygens. And remember, we can double click in those circles to type in them, so I can put the chemical symbol on it. So I know that red block or red circle is representing carbon. And then I'm going to insert shape and another circle for my oxygens. And I'm going to make sure that they are touching, because remember, they are chemically combined together. And I'm going to make those blue. And I'm just going to copy and paste that circle. So I don't have to go up and insert it again. And then remember, I can double click and type inside of those circles. And I'm going to center my text so it looks nice and neat. Okay, so in the first box, we'll give you the similar formula. You follow up with stating the number of elements. Remember, we count capital letters to get the number of elements. Then we use our periodic table of elements to name each of the elements. We are given the symbols, and then we name the elements. And then in the fourth box, we use the green arrow to indicate whether this is an example of an element or a compound. We show the substance with the cubes. And then finally, we draw a model using circles.